Georgia, number 1 team in the country, goes to Kentucky, ekes out a victory. Don't punt the ball, Coach Stoops. So depressing.
He leaned on his defense. It's what kept them in the game.
Yeah, it wasn't the worst strategy. I'm not going to overhype it because they probably weren't going to win the game anyway. It's 4th and 6, but it's like, I mean, you're 1-1. You're Kentucky. You got Georgia at home. You got to the aggression to me is make the play and then you lean on your defense.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, it's not like the game is not over if you don't convert the 4th down, but the game, you may win the game if you convert the 4th down, as opposed to we're going to punt it to Carson Beck, who's, maybe the best quarterback in the country, certainly in the top 2 or 3, and say, we're going to stop it. I know they've stopped him most of the game, but game on the line. I will say Mike Bobo finally called some aggressive plays in that last drive after, I thought, coddling Carson Beck for much of the game. But take your chances, man. You're Kentucky, as you said. You're coming off a 25-point home loss to South Carolina, and you've got the number 1 team in the country on the ropes. I think you got to go for it.
So what do you make of these results? Like, do you panic about Georgia? Kentucky may have had the worst performance outside of Notre Dame last week. Then against South Carolina, they come back and play really good football game and almost beat Kentucky. South Carolina I thought they played well yesterday. They just gave up a huge lead to LSU, but LSU comes in like there's this mix. Notre Dame could not have played worse against Northern Illinois, could not have played better against Purdue. You can say whatever you want. 66-7, 362-38 on the ground. They only allowed 1 of 12 third down conversions, most points since 65. Like, is this, we're going to have clunkers? Is there just too much? Is this a little bit more? Is there too much parity? Like, what do you make of this stuff where one week in, week out, heretofore, Georgia looked as good as you could possibly look. Now then they don't. I don't know what quite to make of all of this. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, it's college football where there's going to be these vagaries to a degree. But with Georgia, the 2 things that somewhat maybe explain this. One, every time they go to Lexington, this is kind of how the game goes. I mean, they've scored, I think it's 14, 16, and 13 in their last 3 games there. They've won them all, but they are all just like wisdom tooth extractions. They're painful, slogging defense. But the other thing is, I've said this since 2017, Kirby Smart's teams always find one game where they just suck. I mean, maybe this is it. And I didn't think they completely sucked, but they really didn't play like Georgia plays. They did not tackle worth a darn, and that rarely happens with Georgia. I mean, Kentucky guys just running through them. So there's one game a year when they do not show up and perform like Georgia does the other 12, 13, 14, and maybe that was it for them. As for the other ones, if I'm a Notre Dame fan, I'm madder today maybe than I was last Sunday, because that's how dominant the team can be. And the variance in performance from game 1, hard-fought, tough win in College Station to the disaster at home to this absolute mauling of Purdue, that's too big a variance. That tells me you're not focused, you're not prepared, you're not giving maximum effort, you're not executing. So that would really tick me off, because that is such an underperformance there. But I think we're gonna see some of these things, throughout the season, as we do most seasons. But it might just be a little bit more glaring, maybe now, as teams, especially early in the year, people are still putting together rosters and figuring out what they're good at.